ECU?
R.
Do you bleed purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors?
Hoist the colors!
It's time for the most in-depth look into the world of ECU athletics. Welcome to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Here's Stephen Igo.
We are back. It is Hoist the Colors, Monday, August 11th. It is our season premiere of Hoist the Colors. Steve and I go with you. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. And download the IBX Media app. That way you can get all of our shows, along with the Patrick Johnson Show, Talk of the Town, across IBX Media. There you can get our show directly on the Hoist the Colors 94.3 The Game podcast and Spotify channel. I know a lot of people listen there as well. And we're back from summer hiatus. It has been too long. We've got Philip Pilkington. He's producing. Philip, are you ready?
Yes, I am pumped. Let's go. We are back. It was cool being off for about a week, and then I just got bored.
Yeah, you know, I'm not going to lie. It takes a while to get back into the groove of doing this daily. I definitely missed it. I think now that we're live on the air, I'm going to get back in. I'm more excited than, I don't know. Like, I was kind of like nervous going into this, and then like once we start getting back on there, it's more like riding a bike. We're just back to doing what we've always done. It just feels like we did this yesterday, even though it has been a long time.
I know. I kind of feel that there was a little anticipation when I walked in the studio today, and we got back from our press conference, so I didn't have, considering we've not done it in a while, I didn't have like a lot of time to get stuff ready. We had plenty of time, but it was just like, okay, it's not like I've been in the studio all morning. Like, we had a press conference, and then now that we're here and we're on, like once I fired the open, it was like, oh yeah, this is second nature.
We're back.
Here we go.
We're back. Intern Cecilia hanging out as well. We'll have to introduce her to the audience at some point during this show as she hangs out with us. And apparently we've been gone so long, Philip. I said we're live on YouTube, and we are live. There's like new crowns emojis going on with the comments, which is good. We're already getting comments. Lane Smith says, finally. Brady Thomas, former Hoist the Colors intern, says, bang. Like, there are crown symbols. I got to figure out what this all means.
Yeah, I see that. Brady put a crown number 1, bang!
Yeah, this is crazy. We already have a question about the O-line struggles. We're back, baby. We are officially back.
They're asking us questions about struggles. I feel like that's, hey, Coach Aldridge today said that, or no, not Coach Aldridge. Sorry.
Yeah, we talked to Coach Aldridge.
We did, but that's not who we talked to the offensive line about.
Oh, yeah.
I guess we're not really supposed to talk about the conversation with Max. That's an ECU Sports Network exclusive.
That is an ECU Sports Network exclusive.
But he seemed happy, I guess is the point. Like, he is not worried. And last week, JDB did talk about the depth of the offensive line and how he feels like there's a lot of guys they can plug and play. And so I know we'll get deeper into it, but I don't know if I'd use the word struggles and offensive line in the same sentence. That's all I got to say.
I feel pretty good about the offense as a whole. Defense, which we'll talk more about Coach Aldridge, what he had to say. They were supposed to talk with JDB as well. I think it's a miscommunication there. We're going to hopefully get JDB back later this week. So, I don't know what's going on with the crowns and the chat, but we'll try to figure that out. We are open to all questions across Facebook, YouTube, and X. If you want to drop a chat in, we'll get to your questions and everything else. We've got Jonathan Wagner. We've got Johnny Roberts in the chat, Brady, Lane. It's good to see all you guys hanging out, and we'll get to your questions here shortly. Let's catch up on what we have missed, Philip. And it really hasn't been that much. There's a reason we take July off because there's not much going on. And we'll get into our preseason camp thoughts in a minute because they did actually start preseason camp a little bit earlier due to the Thursday night season opener. Again, we are 17 days away from kickoff. Hard to believe, NC State on August 28th. So, camp's been going. Today was the start of week 3, so there's plenty to talk about there. But we had Media Day. We had Media Day in Charlotte. We'll start there. This is your stomping grounds. And so, first off, Charlotte Convention Center, we shared it with do you remember the makeup seminar going on? What was it, Mary Kay?
It was Mary Kay. Was it Mary Kate or Mary Kay? What is the makeup thing, Cecilia?
It's Mary Kay.
Mary Kay. Mary Kay. There were a lot of Mary Kay.
There was a lot of women there.
I've never seen that much pink in my life. I thought I was watching the Barbie movie, from what I understand. That was all pink.
Yeah, so that was you were like texting me, there's a lot of women here, and which isn't always a bad thing. But certainly they weren't there for American Media Day, and we were. And look, I thought the American did a phenomenal job with just the setup. Most of these media days have happened either in Rhode Island or in more recent years in Texas. And I'm just going to be honest, I'm not going to Texas to get really not that much content. It is content, but they're really not saying a whole lot. So we went. Charlotte is drivable, and I really enjoyed it, man. I thought, honestly, you could have spread it out. I mean, you do have, 14 teams playing football in this league. That is a lot to cram into really one day of, press conferences and media access. I know you went the first day on the Thursday, and there was some social media stuff going down there. But I honestly enjoyed it, man, and, I hope that they figure out a way to keep it in Charlotte, even though I think they'll probably just move it around in coming years. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was kind of it gave us kind of that precursor to feel like, okay, football's right around the corner, as well as it kind of got us out of I was very much in this just kind of routine of doing miscellaneous stuff around the station. So it was nice to get out and talk to people. So that part was nice, but yeah, they did a solid job, right? I think the TV coverage was good. The one thing I will say, and this is just from it kind of being, honestly, I'm going to throw this not as much in the conference as much. I'm actually going to kind of call out maybe the other teams' SIDs here. And key thing I'm saying, other teams. Malcolm Gray. Malcolm Gray had all of our guys where they were supposed to be ahead of schedule, by the way. But I wanted to talk to some of the opposing teams we're going to see this year, and I did not feel like their SIDs did not escort them into the room and have them sit down at the table they were supposed to and kind of be there for media. They kind of walked in the room, looked around, didn't see any media of their university, and then just dipped. So that part was a little frustrating. I kind of wish the conference would have had someone, maybe they're handling that, not putting that on Chuck by any means. He did a great job of making sure TV stayed on schedule, and there were so many things going on with the coaches in the main room, and then the coaches had to go over and do TV, and then the players had to do TV, so there's so much going on. But overall, yeah, for a non-Power 4 conference, I thought it was really well, and the food was good, and that half of how I judge these things is as to how much I get fed, and I was fed very well, so I left very happy.
I do have to say the food was exquisite, and getting that lunch on the final day before hitting the road was a major plus, major win for the American. So great setup. You can tell they spent a lot of money on all the setup and the prestige of the event, all that sort of stuff. So I really wanted to recap that because I thought the American did a great job. If they had a basketball media day in Charlotte, would you also go? The tough thing about a basketball media day is what? It's going to be in the middle of football season, so that may make it tricky. But usually they do that in Texas as well.
Yeah, but you got to think it's going to be in October, and we don't have any Saturday games in
true.
October. So I think if it's one of those, if it's a Wednesday, Thursday, and we've got a Thursday night game, I mean, obviously the answer is no. But if it falls during one of our bye weeks, I say we maybe find a way to do the show from there, maybe.
Right.
And
I'm down.
Yeah, we'll leave Dom back here, and he can not have any fun and just video in with us while we're having fun in Charlotte.
We can make it work for sure. All right, preseason camp ongoing. Like we said, 3 weeks into this thing, or start of week 3 today. And many of these questions we're getting have to do with really what I've seen in camp thus far. So we'll kind of coincide some of those with thoughts on preseason camp. I'll just say, look, first off, we've had a little bit more limited access this year than in past years, which I'm totally fine with. I don't have a problem with that at all because our friends down the road at NC State, talking to Corey Smith and Michael Clark, who run Pack Pride for 24/7 Sports, they get an hour of the first practice, and then they don't get anything else, basically the rest of camp. No practice access, no interviews really. It's out of every, now and then. Whereas we're getting 2 to 3 times a week. We're not seeing a bunch of team-on-team stuff as far as, the actual first-team offense against the first-team defense. If I really wanted to sit there, I could watch through the gate. You can see enough, but I don't really want to do that and, report on what's happening because it's a strategic disadvantage if you're doing that because NC State's not allowing any of their new information to get out. ECU's trying to keep their information, the big information, in-house, which I totally understand. Until there's some sort of regulations, like the NFL has regulations on what can be reported in training camp and all that sort of stuff. Until there's some sort of college sports practice regulations across the board, I don't have a problem with ECU trying to keep it as hush-hush, and it's a big opener. Last year it was Norfolk State. Last year, I could watch every play and probably report on every play of a scrimmage because it didn't matter. ECU was opening the season with Norfolk State, whereas this year you're opening at NC State. So it's a little bit of a different scenario. So with that said, we still have sources within the program, still gleaning a lot of information, and it's kind of basically what I thought it would be. The offense is pretty explosive, has a chance to be pretty special. Caden Hauser looks great. This, from what I've seen, what I've heard, the wrist surgery seems to be a thing in the distant past at this point. And he's, Josh Aldridge said today in his press conference, in the spring, Caden was still recovering from his wrist injury, and so he didn't get a ton of live reps. And now he is back fully, and Josh Aldridge, the ECU defensive coordinator, is like, man, it's going really fast. Our defensive players are having to keep up, and you can tell the difference. And I just think everything offensively right now is clicking. Obviously, they're going to run into some things come the season, come game days that they aren't seeing in practice. They'll have to adjust to. But the offense is humming along pretty good. And the defense, as I expected, is having some lumps they're having to get over. You got a first-year defensive coordinator. You got a ton of new personnel. Now, they are pretty old on that side of the ball in terms of bringing in a bunch of older transfers, a bunch of older guys. And so I think in time, as they all look to work in unison, they'll get better. But I would say the offense well ahead of the defense right now, just based on what I've seen, Phillip. And honestly, that's not a surprise.
No, it's not. Look, it's already a little easier to, I think, install an offense, because you install what you install, right? Like defense, yeah, you've got your base, but it changes week to week, and it's a little tough to get into a game week. But like you said, also returning quarterback. It will be a different center. We don't know who that starter is going to be. Obviously, Dustin Hall graduated, but there's a little continuity on the offensive line. And, a lot of your offensive skill position guys have returned, and you've just got some stars, some guys that should be all-conference players in those offensive skill positions. So it makes it tough. And, for the defense, look, new DC, like I said, there's a lot of new faces. Now, I think the experience and the football IQ is there of the I don't want to say starting 11, starting 15 to 16 guys in defense, because really that's how many guys get out there and play on a consistent basis. I think it's going to be there, but again, you've got to see how you do live action. Well, they got to see that Saturday, so now they've gone in, watched themselves on film from Saturday, and they can go in and build off that, and they're going to continue to build, day in and day out, and then kind of the first game is going to be a big test for them as well, but it's all about how they improve and how they come together. And it's a little harder for a defense to come together because offense can go out there and run plays on air, and whereas that's not the same maybe as running them against the defense, you still can develop some of that continuity. It's kind of tough on defense because, the coach can go out there and run with the ball and say, okay, everybody rally to the football, but it's still different passing off receivers on the back end, especially in zone coverage. Okay, where do I like to pass a guy off in cover 2 as opposed to where, the guy who's playing next to me likes to receive the guy in this coverage, and so on and so forth. There's just a lot of the weird nuances of playing defense that you can't really do until you've done it in a game.
The other big thing, tackling. You cannot simulate tackling but so much in practice. Obviously, you can go live for segments, but you can't just go out there and tackle for an hour and a half or your guys are going to be beat up. Unfortunately, Demarius Hines, ECU safety, got hurt in the scrimmage on Saturday, as somebody had a question here about him. Let's see. Johnny, I believe, asked how is Demarius Hines doing. He was on crutches today, Johnny. Again, no official word. I think from what I've understood, he will get an MRI in the coming days, and they'll know more what happened to his leg. But doesn't look great initially. He was having a great camp, sophomore safety, Demarius Hines. So, look, football it's a tough game, man. You're going to get a lot of injuries in the preseason at times, especially if you're a physical team. Blake Harrell, I think, is trying to find that balance of hitting and going live versus trying to keep the guys healthy, because I do think if this team stays healthy, they have a chance to surprise some people this year, especially offensively. I think they're going to put up some great numbers if they're healthy. So, they got to find that balance, but you also got to tackle, because you can't go out there having not practiced that way and go face live bullets on August 28th at NC State. And if you do that, you're going to be in trouble. So
yeah, I just want to quick remind people, because people are going, oh man, why are their guys getting hurt? So not to get political, but Maryland had certain rules during COVID that some other states did not have. Navy was not allowed to tackle prior to their first game in 2020. They lost 55-3 to BYU, and those two teams that year BYU was probably a little better, but they were pretty much evenly matched. They couldn't tackle. So you've got to practice it to an extent. I know it's frustrating to see a star safety get injured, but we have hard evidence that if you don't tackle in the preseason, for whatever reason, it bites you in the rear end in week 1. Just saying.
No doubt. You got to do it. It is this part of football. It's a physical game, and if you don't practice it, you can't play it very well. All right, let's get our first break in. We will come back. We'll get to more of these questions. We'll also continue to run down what we've missed. We got to talk about Dave Doeren. He wants to beat the crap out of ECU. He said another word. There was a big offseason of recruiting for ECU football. Gavin Williams almost threw a no-hitter. We'll check in on Major League Baseball. We'll, if we have time, also take a look around the preseason. We may do that later this week. NFL player or ECU players in the NFL preseason as this week continues. This is Hoist the Colors season premiere. We'll be right back.
The team of Flatlands Jessup is working overtime to help ensure that Eastern North Carolinians like you get the health insurance help you need this open enrollment period. New legislation passed meaning more people than ever qualify for affordable coverage. Let us help you today.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
Tired of the 1-800 numbers advertising Medicare products? Flatlands Jessup has 6 offices all throughout Eastern North Carolina. Get face-to-face help from our local award-winning licensed team. Stop by today. Flatlands Jessup, your whole world covered.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arg!
In this age of globalization, we've learned that bigger isn't always better. Ever tried to get phone help from a big corporation from a real person? Right. That's what's so nice about Phelps Chevrolet. After more than 50 years serving our community, Phelps remains family-owned and operated. Mike, Daryl, Wave, West, Allen, and Clay deliver hometown service and integrity, same as always. They share your experience, they share your values, and they are ready to help with any motoring need. Come get you one.
The Pirates play here.
Time to play the game!
This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in Hoist the Colors. It is our season premiere after our summer break, and thrilled to be back. Philip Hilkinen producing, and Stephen Igo here. We've got a lot to catch up on. We also have a lot of comments. Also, I'm seeing these new graphics, Philip, pop up on the YouTube stream. Well done, first off. Did you get into your bag this offseason and really
a little bit.
Really dive into the graphics game?
A little bit. We've got that one, and then we've got another ECU State one next. So I went ahead and already got them all for each football game.
Look at you, man. I'm just impressed you're making the most of your free time, not just sitting around and doing nothing.
I know. I didn't just twiddle my thumbs this summer.
I'm proud of you, man. I really am. Though,
I appreciate it.
So we'll be on the lookout for that. Somebody said in the chat, we're talking about the YouTube crowns. Apparently, it is just the top fans that are being recognized for commenting first. And also, I guess it just recognizes like your most commented members. So no surprise. Guess who's number one? Lane Smith. Lane Smith is our number one fan. Robert Dedrick is second, and Jonathan Wagner coming in at third. Honestly,
really?
Surprised Wagner.
I would have thought Johnny Stats or
maybe it's just for this particular chat.
Maybe it is for this particular chat because I feel like gosh, I'm drawing a blank. There's a couple other guys I feel like are more than Wags.
Yeah, Wags is not. I mean, look, Wags always watching, but he's rarely commenting. He's staying over in the On 3 department, which, by the way, they keep taking people from 24/7 Sports, which is my employer. We gotta have a conversation on that one day. But either way,
Wags and Igo duke it out on the air
technically
tomorrow
rivals,
because
correct.
Tuesday is Wags' off day. He's going to come in tomorrow and they are going to fist fight on the air, full on Rocky.
I think I would win. I'm not the strongest guy in the world, but I am stronger than Wags.
I'm putting money on you over Wags.
He only eats chicken tenders and pizza, by the way.
No, he also eats French fries.
Oh, my bad. And it takes him forever to eat French fries. Anyways, that's another story. I went to a baseball game with him one time. It took like an hour for him to eat his food. Anyways, back into comments, and I do want to share, we are going to have, obviously, guests on the show. Just kind of give you guys a rundown. Tomorrow we'll actually have Kim McNeil, women's basketball coach. She will be in studio for a couple segments, talk about her off season, the program's off season. We are scheduled to have Mike Schwartz on sometime next Monday. We're going to nail that down, the ECU men's basketball coach, and we'll mix in obviously our usual guests: Kevin Monroe, Macy O'Donnell, Joe Sampson. But for the next really few weeks, we've got so much football content to just talk about. We are going to do a conference by conference breakdown. We'll start with the American probably Wednesday. We're going to run through these conferences, make our picks on winner, dark horse, player of the year, that sort of stuff. Philip, I think we did that last year. It was a lot of fun, so we're going to repeat that. So we've got a lot of ball to talk, and again, we'll mix in the guest when I feel like we need to, but really just, man, we're going to be talking a lot. So I hope people are ready.
I'm excited. Let's do it.
So we are going to do that quite a bit. All right, let's get to some of these questions in the chat. Robert wants to know, what do we make of the O-line struggles in short yardage / red zones versus the defensive line? And so I guess he's talking about in practice, like the offensive line and the offense, according to Robert. I guess Robert's been in practice. He's got the inside scoop. I've kind of heard the same thing. Actually, the run defense looks pretty good, especially in short yardage situations. You know, Caden Hauser's commented on that. And honestly, Philip, I think this is a great thing because for me, I heard coming out of the first scrimmage, they hit the defense with some big passing plays. Well, you can fix that for the most part. Yes, certainly you're gonna, if you have a bad pass defense, you can only shore up so much. But a lot of it comes down to communication and just being in the right spot. Like if you're just getting ran through up front, if the opposing offense is just lining up and slamming it down your throat, like for me, you can't fix that. So I am encouraged that for me in practice, I'm hearing the offense is having trouble at times running the ball because I think they'll be able to run the ball with this O-line and running game come the opener and beyond. For me, I want to know this defense, can they stop the run? And it seems like at this point they are, and that's a great sign for me.
It is. And, the easiest way to lose a football game is allow 4 yards up A-gap every play. If you do that every single play, you will lose 100% of football games. So that is a good thing from the defense side of things. As to kind of address the question more head on, are we worried about the offensive line? I would think not. Sounds like they're protecting Caton pretty well, and they are good in the more open run game, right? And this is the hardest part for an offensive line to nail down. And the reason being is because the defense is not as stretched as out. They usually do walk one more guy down into the box in short yarded situations. And also a lot of times the football is being handed off a lot quicker. You do lose actually some of your run plays that are in your playbook when you get in these short yarded situations. A lot of times the stretch runs are not as much there. Yeah, you might have outside zone, but you're not going to have it like a true stretch. So there are some things that just do play into the defense's hands in these short yarded situations. That's the reason the Philadelphia Eagles are so into running the tush push because it's really hard to run the football in that situation. They figured out a formula to do so they don't stray away from it. So, yeah, I'm not too worried. I think there's probably a lot of teams around the country right now that are struggling to run the ball on 3rd and 1, and I know you want to pick those up, but at the end of the day, if your defense is stopping 3rd and 1 on the other side, better than the other team's defense can stop 3rd and 1, you're going to be okay.
And ECU have any competition at center? We talked about that post-practice with Matt Maddox today. That could be, part of the deal as well. Obviously, you got to get pushed at center, good snap, all that stuff. So that is worth watching going forward. That plays a role in that short yardage situation as well. All right, Lane Smith, he says, do we have a good kicker? I don't want to lose because of kicking this year. First off, cheap plug here. We have a VIP special teams report up on hoistthecolors.net. You can get 50% off and go read all about the kicking. Now I'm going to give you the free version as well. I like where ECU sits a kicker. I want to see somebody emerge. Now, the Pirates brought in a transfer from New Hampshire, Nick Mazzi, I believe is the pronunciation. He has done a lot of kicking. He's been the Wildcats' top kicker the past 3 seasons. He comes to ECU. I think around a career 80%, a little less than 80%, tick below 80% success rate on field goals. He's only missed 2 extra points in 3 years. He's got experience. He's got a track record. But you also have Andrew Conrad back. He's hit a game winner before. He's had experience in a track record. You got Noah Perez back. He made some big kicks in the bowl game last year. So he has a little bit of a track record. You also have Everett Scott, who is your kickoff specialist. He's got a big leg. Doesn't have the track record as a kicker. But still, you've got 3 legitimate kickers with game experience. But I don't think ECU wants to have a 3-kicker system. I don't think anybody does. So I will say they had an intense competition. I know you were at the preseason game for the Panthers this weekend, Philip. So one of the few things we did see at this past Saturday's scrimmage was the kicking competition. They crowded the entire team on both sides around the kickers, had them all kick from the same spot. The team was making noise and throwing water on them, trying to create pressure. And I will say for the most part, the results were good. I really didn't notice any kicker kind of separate themselves. They all missed a kick beyond 40, but none of them were just shanking kicks left and right. So based off that competition, I would say the kicking is in a solid but not great place. That's just one small sample size. And I would expect Nick Mazzi to be the guy, given he was brought in here to be that guy. But, I feel pretty good about the kicking. I just want to see them go do it in a game in a pressure situation. Now, I still don't want a game to come down to a college kicker. For me, you want to avoid that unless you have Lou Groza himself walking out there.
Honestly, I don't know if I want a game come down to a kicker in general.
Yeah, even in the NFL.
Are there guys? Sure, but I feel like that's a short list. Tucker, who's not on the roster, Vinatieri, there are guys, but, let's go back to the 98 NFC Championship game and the dude for the Vikings who hadn't missed a kick all year and misses a kick. And then
Gary Anderson.
Gary Anderson, and then Atlanta goes down and puts them away. So, and the Vikings haven't recovered since. They still got the kicking curse. Blair Walsh in 2015, and I feel like there's been a few others. So, yeah, I don't want it coming down to a kicker, Lane. So I get what you're saying here, but unless his name's Vinatieri, I don't know. I don't think I want it coming down to a kicker.
We call Johnny Robertson Mr. Stats. He says Nick Mazzi is 7 inches and 67 pounds heavier than Noah Perez.
I like it. I like it.
So
that means you trust him more to make a tackle?
He actually, I want to say in his bio, he was recruited as a safety. Maybe I'm getting him mixed up with somebody else.
Oh, that'd be nice. Hey, last line of defense on kickoffs. Let's hope he's not making a tackle on any play that he, was originally supposed to kick it through the uprights, because then we've got some other problems going on that happened prior to him having to make a tackle. But
I get it, Lane. I'm with you. I want to see ECU just have the best kicking game in college athletics, but it's just this, for a college sports team, I would say that ECU's in a pretty good spot. You can't be perfect in special teams, especially in college football, especially at kicker. But I think ECU has done everything it can to be in a decent spot there. It's not a good spot. So at this point, it's just about going out and doing it on game days. All right, we have a question about NC State's practice access. And Robert wants to know, is this being done strategically? Are they not allowing this? Are they only giving pressers certain players access to pressers. Look, everything is done strategically in college athletics when it comes to media access, when it comes to press conferences. All this stuff is sought through or sought after and thought through. I think, I don't really know. NC State does have new coordinators on both sides of the ball. But all this stuff, it kind of goes out the window once the ball is kicked off. And it's the same thing with the Dave Doeren comment, which we'll talk about now. Like he said at, ACC Media Day, I believe he told ESPN's David Hell, the quote was, "I don't want to just win that game. I want to beat out of that team. Not because of them, but because of how we played. I told our team in the locker room that's the most embarrassed I've ever been as a coach, not because we lost, but because of how we behaved at the end of it." So he's talking about not only the loss of the game, but the altercation at the end where guys were fighting, players ejected, all that. So we haven't had a chance to talk about this. What did you make of the Dave Doeren comments about beating the crap out of ECU?
He's calling his team out. I think the bulk of that comment is the end of the comment where he said he was never been more embarrassed as a head coach. He's calling his team out for the way they played, and he's calling his team out for the way they acted. And he wants them to go out there and prove to him that they are capable of being the team that he knows they can be, and the only way that they can do that to the fullest is if they kick the you-know-what out of the team that beat them the night he was the most embarrassed. So, look, I'll be honest with you. Every head coach in the country wants to kick that out of every team they play, and they tell their players that. I don't think that was directed at ECU. I mean, was it to an extent because it's a rivalry? Yeah, but I don't think there's anything to get too all worked up about. I mean, we were at media days. We were around, Coach Harrell and the players. We were just casually talking to them, obviously, off the record, and they were like, whatever. Like, it is what it is. Like, who cares? We don't care what Coach Doeren is saying. I mean, and they shouldn't. Like, if they want to put it in the locker room and I guess use a little bit extra motivation, cool. But at the end of the day, comments at press conferences do not win and lose football games. How you execute on game day and how you prepare in the offseason wins and loses football games.
It gives us something to talk about. It's more for the fans, I think, than anything. Because, look, I'm with you, too. And I can see it from both sides. I can see it from NC State's side. Like, it's not like he's just saying, like, screw ECU and all this stuff. It was more about what happened at the game. Now, if you're ECU, can you find a way to take the comments personally? Sure. And I think ECU will. And they'll use it as motivation. I guarantee you if ECU wins that game on August 28th, they're going to reference that comment. Multiple players will. And if not, Coach Harrell. But, there's no need to – we tried to bait Coach Harrell. I won't even say bait him, but we tried to ask about it and see if he would give us something back. And he's like, we're worried about ECU, blah, 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 which is the right way to go about it. And then, as he also said to me when I asked, he's like, look, we're coaches. We should all feel that way about our opponents, just like you said, Philip. So, we just don't see the coaches come out and say it, and so I don't think it's that big of a deal. But also, it is interesting that he said it because it does create a little bit more pressure on Dave Doeren himself. And in reality, there is a ton of pressure on NC State going into this game. If they lose this game, Dave Doeren already under a ton of heat. It's going to get pretty ugly in Raleigh for those guys.
Look, I don't think it would happen. I really don't after one game of the season. But all I am going to say is you got 9 days off after that one. You're 0-2 in your last two against a team that you think you're big brother to. Them pitchforks are going to start to get raised, and those torches are going to be lit, and he's going to feel like Shrek when they came to all the village people came to get him in the beginning of the movie. That's how Doran's going to feel. I can tell you that.
I had to rewatch Shrek recently with my 4-year-old son Slater, so good times there. All right, we'll get a break in. We'll come back. We'll continue on answering your questions. We also have more topics to get into as well. This is Hoist the Colors on a Monday.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
For over 51 years, Parker's Barbecue has brought families together with our award-winning whole hog barbecue and fried chicken. Tradition is important at Parker's Barbecue, and for 3 generations, the Parker's way has stood the test of time. Whether you visit our dining rooms or drive-thrus, use our on-site catering, or even use our nationwide shipping, the hospitality, barbecue, fried chicken, homemade sides are still the same.
We are the Parker family. Come in and let our family show you. This is the Parker's way.
Get ready to board.
We're live with Steve and Igo on 94.3 The Game. Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors here. Monday, August 11th, our season premiere. We're back after our summer hiatus, 17 days away from kickoff at NC State. Philip Pilkington producing. By the way, we just learned we'll be on location for the pregame show. I believe that is the plan, 94.3 The Game at NC State, which Philip is in charge of piecing it together this year, and we'll be co-hosting this, right, Philip?
Yeah, we're definitely co-hosting the home games. I think due to your schedule for most road games, this will be a little different, obviously, because I can go. We may it may be a little more heavy Joey football on some of those days.
Bad thing.
It's never a bad thing. We will not include you, but we do know that right around the time we're on air is when you're usually driving to the stadium, trying to figure out where your parking is, pick up your credentials, all those things. So little TBD on road games, but home games and NC State for sure is going to be me and you, and might throw in some guests here and there. I'm sure I'll bait Zoki and/or Andrew Bays in that first day. I mean, they're already standing in the booth next to us. We might as well throw them on, just a little bit.
So we'll be there live from Raleigh. Tune in 3 hours prior to kickoff every game. We'll have the countdown show for you on 94.3 The Game, counting down to kickoff. The AP poll was just released, top 25. We'll hit this quickly. So no ECU opponents are in the AP preseason top 25, but number 26, Philip, can you guess? Others receiving votes. Who do you think is the first team out? It is an ECU opponent.
I'm going to go with the Cougars.
It is the BYU Cougars. If they would have had Jake Retzloff, I think they'd be firmly in the top 25. They are just outside. But, hey, they open with Portland State and Stanford, and they get a bye week and they come to ECU. I would say about a 90% chance they're going to be ranked heading into that game because somebody's going to lose. They're going to win. And there's a good shot they'll be ranked coming to ECU is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think the only way they're not ranked is if every team who loses to a team that was right behind BYU, and then those two teams kind of flip-flop, right? Because they have nothing on their schedule that will move the needle.
Yeah.
I mean, Portland State, Stanford, oh my goodness, how are they still a Power 4 school? So, yeah, but I think like you said, kind of by default, someone will drop out And also, I don't know who they're going to start at quarterback now. I'm going to go on a limb and say Jake Retzloff was not the only decent quarterback on that roster. I'm sure the kid they had behind him is probably just as good, but he's just younger. And they will probably also prove to the world that they are still very much a Big 12 contender. I think they still will be this year. They're a really good football team, solid on defense.
Speaking of Jake Retzloff, he's at Tulane now. Could you imagine a bigger difference going from BYU to Tulane, New Orleans?
A little bit of a culture shock there, and I'm going to go on a limb and say that some of his activities will be less frowned upon in New Orleans than Provo, and we'll just leave it at that.
It's a good way to put it. Tulane is just outside the top 25 as well. They, of course, are an ECU opponent. Pirates will go to New Orleans on a Thursday night. Memphis is also in the others receiving votes category, and Army is as well. So you've got 4 ECU opponents in the others receiving votes. Number 1 is Texas, 2 is Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, rounding out your top 5 for the preseason top 25. Boise State coming in at number 25. Looks like the only school outside of the Power 4 or whatever we're calling it now. All right, so there's your AP top 25. Check in. John Moody says, good to have y'all back. What was y'all's highlight of the summer? Philip, your highlight of the summer was what?
Getting a week to relax in the Bahamas.
I saw some pictures of that, man. Y'all had a good time.
Yeah, it was fun. We enjoyed it. Very relaxing. It was not a trip. It was
like
a vacation.
The resort thing?
No, we have a friend who's got a house down there. We just stayed at their place.
That's a pretty good hookup then.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Mine was going to Fenway Park to see your Red Sox play for the first time ever. We visited some family up in the Boston area, and we went to see the Rockies play at the Red Sox. I was hoping to see Zach Agnos pitch. He was at that time on the active roster. This was pre-injury, but he had thrown like an inning and 2/3 the day before, so he did not pitch, but the Red Sox rolled. They hit like 3 home runs, maybe 4. The Rockies also hit a home run, but the Red Sox rolled. It was fun. It was a night game. We took my now 4-year-old son and 2-year-old daughter to the game. My expectations were low, Philip. I set the over-under at 3.5 innings. We made it to the 8th inning and Sweet Caroline, and then we bounced. So, I had a great time, man. Went to Wrigley last year, went to Fenway this year, and 2 bucket list stadiums. You know, tough to beat Fenway, though.
I know, right? Well, you've knocked off the big 2, so it's going to be all depressing the rest of the way as you continue to knock out the 30 ballparks. I mean, I know you've been to more than just those 2 in your life, but now that you've done the Pinnacle, see, I still have Wrigley to shoot for. So I'm going to hit a few more before I hit Wrigley, so I can still build up to Wrigley. Of course, I've been to Fenway, so.
Wrigley's pretty sweet, and I went to Wrigley on July 4th afternoon game, peak America. I feel like I would give Wrigley the nod, but if I went to see the Rockies play at Wrigley for a night game, I don't think it would be the same.
Yeah,
so I need to see Wrigley again. I need an excuse. Maybe when ECU plays at Northwestern.
Yeah, you need to see it really good, but then you also maybe need to see more of a hyped Fenway, right?
That is true too. A big time game.
Yeah,
Fenway.
And I'm not saying it's got to be Yankees, but it's just not a team who's got 30 wins in mid-July. And also maybe not a mid-July game. A lot of season ticket holders are vacationing, selling their seats. I think the bulk of when you get the true Fenway vibe is kind of that late push in September, as well as those first couple months from the beginning of season through May. Especially, I know it sounds crazy, but when it's kind of cold and crap weather, you get more of a true Fenway because the only people that will show up are the season ticket holders who really care. So you just don't have any casual fans showing up when the weather's bad. So it actually kind of makes it better.
I can see that for sure. And who knows? Either way, great time, though, at Fenway, and I'm sure I'll make it back before too long. All right, we have a few more questions. We may have to continue on what we've missed later in the week, but as Brooks Hill, he was going to call in, says he got tied up at work. He's going to call later this week. So looking forward to hearing from you, Brooks. We also have Spencer Scott saying, glad to have y'all back. This episode much needed for his drive to Wilmington, so thanks for tuning in, Spencer. All right, Robert Matthews says, I heard JD, I'm guessing he means Lampley, was ineligible for the state game because of the bowl game altercation. Is this true? Robert, first off, that would not be the reason he would be ineligible. He got in trouble, or he was obviously, if you had not been paying attention, if you've been living under a rock, J.D. Lampley, Brock Spalding, Preston Carr were involved in a situation with shooting guns, not at people, but just into the air, et cetera, et cetera. You can go check it out online. They were suspended indefinitely, still are, I believe, technically suspended indefinitely from game action at last check, I think Blake Harrell said, but they are practicing. So there's been no clarification on what their status is for the opener. Now, my sources, and I don't want to go too far down this because there's still a whole legal proceeding happening, like Brock Spalding got charged with like resisting or something. I can't remember the exact term. Basically, they're going to be able to get that drop most likely from what I've heard. And it's not as serious as it sounds with his situation, but still they got to play out the legal proceedings. We'll see what their status is for the opener. But that would be the reason JD would not play in the opener, not because of what happened at the NC State game last year. That was different situation. So we're still waiting the word on whether or not they will be available. Something else I found interesting from Media Day, speaking of availability, Philip, was the commissioner said that starting this year there would be an availability report the teams had to turn in on game day. So basically, if a player isn't playing, you have to submit that. Now, I don't know if that's just for American Conference games. Like, does ECU have to do that for a game at NC State? I don't know, but I thought that was interesting.
I mean, I think this is long overdue with how predominant sports gambling's become, right? Like, you have an NFL injury report. You know an hour and a half before the game who the 46 active players are, right? So if they're going to let people bet on all this stuff, yeah, they should probably have an availability report. And, I mean, I think it makes our job a heck of a lot easier. I mean, how many times have we come on the pregame show and we're like, well, if this guy plays, then X, Y, and Z, but if he doesn't, then, well, the whole game plan changes. And then we had to, we spent half our time comparing how the game will look if player X plays compared to him not playing, and that took up the bulk of the pregame show, and it kind of made it boring. Like, that happens. But now if we know whether or not the guy's playing, we can do all that sporadically throughout the week and spread it out and not just focus on it all on game day, so it makes our job more fun.
Yeah, and again, we didn't really get much clarification on how exactly it'll look. Like, is this something that has to be released in the morning? Is it something that has to be released an hour before kickoff? So I'll try to follow up with the conference and figure out the clarification. Is this something that has to be released for non-conference road games? Typically, it would just apply to your conference games. So Robert follows up. He says, shooting guns in the air at 3 a.m. Yes, I followed closely. So, yeah, that would be the reason they would miss the opener, because of the suspension there, not because of the altercation.
But it's a good question, because we know how college baseball likes to suspend guys the next year for wimpy stuff that,
There are players, like Jason Tarpey was ejected from that game. He's a backup offensive lineman. He may have to miss the game. That's another thing I have to get clarification from ECU about, because he was ejected, and the rule is if you get ejected in the second half, you have to miss at least, I think, the first half of the next game.
I know that's how it works with targeting. I'm not sure how it works with normal.
So, but JD was not ejected from the Military Bowl, so that's just why I was clarifying that, Robert. So, all right, good question though, and we will we'll see what happens. We'll see if I can get clarification on that. We got to get our final break in. We got a question on what Mike Houston said in a recent article about the changing landscape of college football killing his run at ECU. We'll try to address that before we wrap up shop. This is Hoist the Colors.
Turn your car into cash at Greenville Toyota. Cash in your trade-in today. Then get new Camry just $249 a month, or drive a new RAV4 $319 a month at Greenville Toyota, where our volume saves you money.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in color and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
Dottridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Dottridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Dottridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Cash in your trade-in at Greenville Toyota. Get a huge offer when you trade. Then save big on a brand new Corolla, just $229 a month. Or get a Tacoma, just $319 a month. Secure your Toyota now at Greenville
Loyal
Toyota.
and bold, we're the purple and golds.
Yo ho ho!
And we're back to Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors, final segment here of our season debut. It's good to be back after the summer hiatus, so I hope everybody had a fun summer. All right, we had a question from Ben Byram.
B-Baby, what's up?
Who he wanted to bring up Mike Houston. I don't know if you read this article, Philip, but I'll share some of the quotes. He said, thoughts on Mike Houston's recent comments about the changing landscape of college football killing his run here at ECU. I'm obviously paraphrasing there. You get the point. All right, so did you read this yet, Philip? If not,
no, I haven't.
Okay. All right. So essentially, it just updates, what he's doing now. This is from thestate.com. He is with Clemson, by the way, as a volunteer assistant. ECU is still paying his buyout, so he is not making a dime from Clemson. So it's obviously he's on Clemson staff, but ECU is still paying him. And he kind of commented on what happened at East Carolina. Obviously had success rebuilding the program, then went 2-10 and 3-4. Before getting let go mid-season last year. He said, quote, "It was a rebuild when I took it, and we were able to rebuild it and had a lot of success there. Just the timing of everything was some of the changes in the landscape of college football. We struggle to adapt." He went on to say, as the article says, that the issues may still impact ECU, and can ECU continue to have success? He says, quote, "I think that where I left it, they've got a chance, but we'll see. I just think that the landscape of college football has changed so much that, especially for schools at that level, there's still a lot that they've got to kind of learn how to navigate with the current climate." All right, so a couple things here, and you can read the whole article. It updates kind of his family, all that stuff. And, look, I've talked with Mike Houston a decent amount since he left. I know he's very happy at Clemson. At some point, we'll get him on the show when the timing's right, but now is not really that time. And obviously, there's a lot of truth to what he's saying. I mean, college football is changing. East Carolina is still trying to figure out how to adapt to this revenue share era. But also, so are Charlotte and App State. And I would say that those are still the games that were most disappointing to ECU fans. And if you would ask Coach Houston, I think he would say those were the games that probably led to him being let go. And he realizes that. So, obviously, there's a lot of changes East Carolina's got to keep pace with. And I do think ECU was late to the curve on NIL and everything going into 2023 when the 2-10 season happened. So it certainly played a role, but also the inability to recruit and develop the next quarterback after Holton Ahlers was the biggest misfire. The Mason Garcia miss, starting Jake Garcia last year. So, like, there is some truth to what he's saying, but I also think realistically there's also a middle ground. Philip, I don't know your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Look, to his point, schools like East Carolina, schools in the Group of Five, were affected by this more because Alabama was like, oh, we can play players now. Let's roll out all the money we've got. And, Coach Houston had rebuilt a lot of programs, and he'd always done it through getting his recruits and developing them. And he's a very good talent developer. And when you do, like you said, miss on a quarterback, that already hurts you. And then you do it in the era of the portal, which they did the portal to an extent, but he tried to kind of stick to the guys that he had and had recruited, which you got to respect him for, right? I mean, he tried to show loyalty to the student athletes and which he had recruited and hope it all worked out. But I think the miss on Mason was a big part of it, as well as, like you said, we were a little late to the party on some of the NIL stuff, and it was just kind of the perfect storm, or maybe the imperfect storm would be the more appropriate way to put it, because it didn't end the way you wanted it to. But I don't think Coach Houston ever quit fighting for this program, and obviously I think he wishes Blake the best.
And he still has a lot of ties here. I think he'll still be very proud of his time at ECU, and I think ECU fans should also, obviously didn't end the way Pirate fans wanted to, but like, he did bring in JDB. He did bring in Caden Hauser. And I know that he didn't start Hauser to begin with. That was a misfire. I know JDB didn't take off till after he left, but, like, clearly he knew some of what he was doing, and he's won everywhere he's been, so it's not like he just forgot how to coach. I do think the landscape changing impacted him, and it impacted East Carolina. And certainly he deserves some success or some credit for last year's success, even after he left, because he helped lay the foundation there for the Pirates. So certainly we could have a whole big discussion on that, Mike Houston, et cetera. And, again, we'll try to get him on the show when the time's right, but still a little awkward now with John Gilbert and Blake Carroll obviously still here with the Pirates. All right, that'll do it for our season premiere. We'll be back Tuesday. Again, we'll have Kim McNeil, EC women's basketball coach, in studio. We'll also continue to catch up on what we've missed. Glad we're back. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.